Going from where we are today at about a 2 million ounce a year run rate to our project that we're going to build at Los Ricos. Once we have a permit, we'll be ready for construction. And there we're looking at a project that will produce the average of the first 5 years over 7.3 million ounces a year, plus the 2 million ounces that we produce now. And then we also have the second mine in the district that we would like to build in the future. It's at an earlier stage now. It's at what's called a preliminary economic assessment. But that mine is projected in that economic study to produce about over 8 million ounces a year. So 2 million plus 7.3, so about 9 million plus 8 million. And we see, 15 to 17 million ounces a year of production could come out of the company.
With silver prices quite steady above $30 again and more upside potential in this metal for 2025, it's the perfect timing to have a look at exciting investment opportunities in the silver mining space. And today with me is Brad Lengal. He's the CEO of GoGold, which is a silver development company in Mexico, waiting for its mining approval, mining license. But instead of all the other Mexican companies waiting for an open pit mining license, GoGold is waiting for an underground mining license, which could be an even better thing. First of all, Brad, thank you very much for your time. It's great having you and talking about your corporate story today.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
So before we talk about your exciting feasibility study that just came out and also your very good project, let's talk about silver in more general, right? The silver is waiting for its breakout, if you like, and many analysts are talking about silver prices that could reach up to $50. And let's face it, for a company like you, there would be the jackpot. So give us a little bit of a rundown. What's your feeling and your analyst for silver? Is $50 realistic, or do you calculating with much lower prices? Give us an idea.
Yeah, well, I'd say that it's been there twice before, so it's not inconceivable that it'll be back to $50. And during my career, it's been there once. Not so many years ago, it was close to 50. For us, even our operation that we have today, which has been running over 10 years now, where we're now producing this year, we'll produce around 2 million ounces of silver equivalent. These prices, $30 is great because we're making some real good cash, and as we're getting ready to build really the flagship mine for the company. But I think silver, everything I hear, it's the inventories are in deficit, and the demand is on the increase. So it looks good.
Looks very good. Perfect. So, Brad, when we talk to our investors, we always tell them, if you want to invest into a company, first of all, look at the management. Because the management is important. They are not just deciding where to drill and how to communicate with the locals, for example. You're also responsible for my money as an investor, right? So therefore, I want a management that was successful in the past and can deliver in the future. And you as a CEO, you don't just have a very good background. I think you're also invested in the company. Give us a little bit of rundown. What have you done so far? And also, do you have skin in the game, meaning hard dollars in the company that make you as an investor as well?
Yes, I'm one of the largest shareholders of GoGold. As far as reporting shareholders, I believe I'm the second largest. I would be on a fully diluted basis, or even a non-diluted basis. I'd be about 6% of the company, and fully diluted about 6.5%. In my career, which would have started in the early 90s, I've been, along with my team, we built 4 mines. And another thing that's really important in this business is that if you're going to build those mines, you have to have the ability to raise capital. And in my career, we've been very successful in raising pretty close to about $2 billion of equity. And we've done several $100 million of debt deals to build these mines with people such as the Bank of Montreal, Scotiabank, some of those SocGen. So companies, banks like that. Also, it's a very technical business. My education is a geologist, and I have a lot of exceptional technical people working for the company. So that's what you need to be successful in this business.
Absolutely. Very good. Thank you very much for giving us some insights on your background there. But let's talk a little bit more about GoGold. And maybe we can start by giving us a little bit of a pitch, right, about the overall corporate story, because it looks very exciting. You are a little bit unique. You are currently making money out of old tailings on one project. On the other hand, you're developing Los Ricos South and also Los Ricos North, which is maybe a little bit more in the future. And all of this sounds very, very good. So give us a little bit of an rundown. What can investors expect if they are looking for GoGold and if they are looking to invest?
Yes, well, GoGold is both a producer and a developer, a producer, explorer, and developer. The real project in the company right now, which is going to be the next big catalyst, is our Los Ricos project. And Los Ricos is district scale, where we have one of the mines that we plan to build in the near future in Los Ricos South. That project is at a definitive feasibility study and a front-end engineering design. So that means essentially it's shovel ready. And what we're waiting for right now is a permit. And we do believe that we're on a short list now for a permit. And we hope to have that permit by the end of this quarter is our expectation. So within the company also, we have our producing mine, which is our Parral tailings retreatment, which is also a very good environmental cleanup project where we take 300-year-old mine waste in the city of Parral, a city of 130,000 people, and we developed some new technology around it. And we remove that old mine waste from the city, and we have our processing facility about 15 kilometers outside the city. And that's been operating for 10 years now. And it's on a run rate to make us in excess of $20 million a year of free cash flow from that operation. So it's great to have cash flow along with a very strong balance sheet where we have about 76 million US at the end of the last quarter, and that balance is climbing.
That's very good. And let's have maybe a little bit of a look into the future. We've done obviously our research ourselves and we've looked up your company presentation, and you're talking about really exciting numbers. So in the future, if everything goes well, obviously, you're talking about maybe being a producer of up to 60 million ounces of silver a year. That's the potential of a Hecla, for example, and you're valued just a fraction of it. That sounds like real upside potential for me in the, let's say, next 10 years if we have like the broader picture.
Yes, we have a growth profile that we envision for the company, going from where we are today at about a 2 million ounce a year run rate to our project that we're going to build at Los Ricos. Once we have a permit, we'll be ready for construction. And there we're looking at a project that will produce the average of the first 5 years over 7.3 million ounces a year, plus the 2 million ounces that we produce now. And then we also have the second mine in the district that we would like to build in the future. It's at an earlier stage now. It's at what's called a preliminary economic assessment. But that mine is projected in that economic study to produce about over 8 million ounces a year. So 2 million plus 7.3, so about 9 million plus 8 million. And we see, 15 to 17 million ounces a year of production could come out of the company. That's looking, as you mentioned, over the next few years, but really the next big catalyst is near term. It's Los Ricos South, and that would add another 7.2 million ounces to our production profile to get us to that 9 million ounces a year. So then we're more in the range of the Silvercrest, Los Gatos, and with Los Ricos North down the road being built. And I'm not talking way down the road. Our target here is that in Los Ricos South, when we have a permit, it's about a 30-month build. And we're structuring now our project financing so that we can continue to do the work on Los Ricos North in the district. So after we build the South, we're getting ready then to have Los Ricos North at a permit, final engineering, and construction decision. So we can keep on growing 2 to 9 to upward of 17 million ounces of production. So quite a growth profile organic growth profile within the company. The project has a very good NPV, and that's at a definitive feasibility study. Now, it's interesting to note that the different levels of study for some of your audience, when people talk about a PEA, obviously that's an early stage study, and that is a tolerance of plus or minus 50%. So pretty broad tolerance on that. If you talk a pre-feasibility study, that's plus or minus 25%. But if you're talking about what we've done here on a shovel-ready project, you're talking plus or minus 10%. So those tolerances, we're making we show an NPV, net present value, of $355 million at a 5% discount and a 28% IRR. Now that's at $2,330 gold and $2,680 silver. And why we use those prices, we look at a 3-year look back on commodity price, and we average that with the consensus pricing. But if you look at it more as today, say $2,600 gold, and look at a silver price at $30, the project has about a $470 million NPV. And that's just Los Ricos South. And as I mentioned, Los Ricos North also has an earlier stage economic study, a PEA. And in that PEA, we have actually even higher numbers, where we have an NPV of $413 million and about a 30% IRR. And that project would produce about 8.5 million ounces a year, while Los Ricos South in the first 5 years is producing 7.2 million ounces. So all of those two projects both have over, in the south has about a 15-year mine life, in the north about a 13-year mine life, and lots of upside exploration. And the real important thing here, these projects are producing silver at all-in sustaining costs of under $12. So they're very strong economic projects. And the initial one in the south is at a capex to build it of $227 million.
Very good numbers, and I think that gives you a really good exposure to a rising silver price, if you like. So that's very interesting, also as an investor point of view. So Brad, you just mentioned the exploration potential on your project and all of your growth profile, and I think you have some very great slides on your presentation. Maybe we can just bring it up and talk a little bit about the potential.
Sure. Well, what we're looking at here is the Los Ricos district. And everything in the red are claims that we have. And to give you a little bit of scale here, that would represent about 35 kilometers. So we acquired this first in March of 2019 for about $7.5 million. At that point, there were 25 concessions. We've now extended those concessions to 45. And two areas, the two mines I've talked about that were Los Ricos South, where we have a definitive feasibility study, and we're getting ready to build that mine with a permit in hand. And then we have Los Ricos North, and an earlier stage study, but still an economic study. And that, while at the same time we're building Los Ricos South, we plan on advancing that to a later stage study and also applying for a permit. So those are the two areas that will be built first. But outside of that, there is an enormous amount of exploration potential. And if we back up, and what we've done here is we really looked at the history of the district. That's one thing we always do when we go into a new project. We look for every available piece of history on the project, every available piece of data. And here, there was a mine that operated in Los Ricos South from 1908 to 1930. And we were able to find and archive all that data. And also, there was other prospectors, government work that was done on the district back from about 1900. And there's one map here that we started with was 1916. And I hope you're able to see on the presentation, you'll see all those crossed hammers. Those represent prospects in mines, small mines in the district. And that's what we started with. We first explored those prospects, and we used those, especially in Los Ricos North, to be areas where we wanted to start our exploration. So in Los Ricos North, we worked on those prospects. But as of yet, we've never even been able to get to these ones up here north of the river in Los Ricos North. But our drilling so far in Los Ricos North in all categories, we've been able to show that there's 161 million ounces of total resources, measured, indicated, and inferred. If we look at Los Ricos South, there we had about 50 drill holes, but we went in there and we drilled about another 150,000 meters of drilling. And in the whole district, since we acquired that in March of 2019, we've done 250,000 meters of drilling. So we got to a point where every 2 weeks we were putting out a press release, and a lot of just spectacular results. One of the last holes that we released in Los Ricos South before we did the definitive feasibility study was 55 meters of 2.7 kilos of silver equivalent average, which I believe that year was in our space was one of the best width and grade drill holes released in the silver space. So we didn't stop drilling because we weren't finding more ounces. It was just that our shareholder base was saying, okay, you're showing us these holes every 2 weeks. We're seeing that. We want to know what happens next. We want to know what this looks like as a mine. We want to know what the economics looks like. So we took a bit of a pause on the exploration and really focus on that engineering and getting it ready to build. Now, the good news is that really we're ready to go back to exploration again as we're building that mine in Los Ricos North. We feel that we have the bandwidth, we have the exploration team, that we can do more exploration right around that mine that we'll be building. And it's an underground mine. It's 2,000 ton a day mine. We're working on building we'll be working on building the mill and the processing facility. It's very, very minimal environmental footprint. All the good things like dry stack tails, underground. We're taking those tailings when they're detoxified and we put them underground again as what's called paste backfill to stabilize the mine and make it so that we don't have to leave a whole bunch of pillars behind in ore. All the good things. But the great things here are that as we're building this, as we're developing the underground workings, as we're mining out these underground stopes, as bulk underground mining at an average of 11 meters wide stopes, very wide stopes, very good grades. The average grade of the mine is over 300 grams of silver equivalent in these nice wide stopes. As we're doing all of that, also, we're looking at the exploration potential in, again, Los Ricos South, and we're looking at the exploration potential near to that mine that we're building here. We do know that below the mine, in 1927, until they left, they found a new zone. And that zone, they were mining stopes in that new zone that were grading as high as 12 kilos of silver per ton. So very high grade, very similar to what they mined up here, very similar to what our drilling has found in addition to the previously mined areas up here, this whole thing being about 1,400 meters of strike length. Down here, another 200 to 250 meters below these reserves that we've identified, below the mine that we're building, there's another zone there, and we're doing drilling on that right now. And that zone has been known to have very wide, at 10, 15 meter wide mining areas where they mined in the multi-kilos. So that's a tremendous target that we will be working on that's near mine, We're hoping we can extend that below the rest of our reserves with drilling, and that will add more ounces while we're building the mine, we hope. And that'll be our focus.
Very good. Can you give me a little bit of a time frame? How long will it take until you can get there?
Well, really, we're drilling some holes right now. They're deep holes. They're 700-meter plus holes. So they take some time to drill, but really over the next 6 months, we should have some results out on the results of that deeper drilling down here, and also another target right over here that we're exploring right now, a shallow target next to where we're building the mine. So it's all about looking for ounces near where you're building a mine. Obviously, those are the best ounces you can find. That's going to impact the economics in the near term. So I would say over the next 6 months, we'll have some news out about that. And that will be while we're constructing the mine. So I think that's going to be a real big catalyst for us. And we'll go back to Los Ricos North as well. And while we're building the mine in Los Ricos South, we'll do infill drilling. We'll do some more exploration drilling as we're getting that ready to get permitted and final engineering and get built. So, we've had great success in exploration so far. We've got in there and we had 0 resources. And in the Los Ricos district now, we have in excess of 280 million ounces of silver that we've found over those last 5.5 years, and with the 250,000 meters of drilling. And we believe there's a lot more to come.
Excellent. That sounds really good. Brad, your feasibility study says, and also you seem to be quite confident, and I mentioned it in the beginning, that you are expecting to have the permit quite soon. Our listeners are quite aware of the whole Mexico situation, right? Because we've introduced one or the other company that's operating in Mexico. There has been a stop in issuing license. The major problem or the main problem is the open pit mining and not so much of the underground mining, which are you aiming for. Give us a little bit of an understanding about the whole Mexico situation there, the whole permitting process. How close do you think you are?
Yes. Well, of course, that is the one thing that's not within our control, obviously. Everybody knows that. That being said, let me give you a little bit of the history. Before the last administration, permitting in Mexico was quite easy. And, I even understand that they want to get a better control on permitting. They're trying to approach permitting more like you would see in Canada, like you would see in Europe, to a point. Now, I don't think that permitting will ever get as difficult as it is in those other jurisdictions. So what happened last April, a law was passed, and it was the law that was passed before an upcoming election. So some people would say that law was directed at that president's base of voters, and that law had a prohibition on open pits. Now, there was an election last June. The new president came in October, and the same party. And that president is obviously concerned about the environment and social aspects of people building mines. But she came out recently and said that they had done a study on how no open pits would affect the mining industry in Mexico. And she basically stated there will be open pit mines in Mexico. We are going to repeal that law and change it so there will be open pit mines. So we know that is on their agenda. Last November past, I went to a meeting in Mexico City with the Department of Economy, and where they laid out in that meeting to GoGold and 10 other companies that were there, Agnico, Tech, Torex, many of the companies you would know were sitting there, all companies that were waiting for permits. And they laid out what was going to happen. And what we've seen so far is that everything they said has happened. They said that they would address first ongoing operations, that they would get their permits they need for continuing operation, which are happening and have happened. Notably, in the last 10 days, Grupo Mexico, one of the large national mining companies down there, international mining companies. They have mines in the US as well. They were issued 3 permits for extending operations that they, under the previous administration, had been waiting 3 years for. So they were issued those. Today, Alamos Gold, which is a Canadian mining company, a major, they had been waiting a long time for a permit for an underground mine below where they had finished their open pit, and they were issued that, and it was announced today. All the things that they said in that meeting in November are happening. Now, they said they will get those continual operation permits going. We've been informed that there's a list of new operations, such as ours, that and that would have open pit permits on it, and it would have underground permits, and that those would be some of the first permits in new mines that they would be addressing. And our conversations with them are that they are addressing those permits now. So we believe that our expectation is that by the end of this quarter, they will have addressed our permit application, which has been with them for 2 years, and that we believe that our expectation is that's the time frame that we should have that permit relatively soon. And with permit in hand, then we look to have start our breaking ground construction decision in the second quarter and get building that mine. 24 months to build, another 6 months to ramp up to full commercial production. So everything is moving in Mexico. It's an enormous catalyst for GoGold. It's probably the biggest catalyst the company has ever had. And we're extremely confident that in the near term, we will receive that permit for our underground bulk mine.
Excellent. Brad, thank you so much for giving us insights in GoGold, in your plans going forward, also in the Mexican, let's say, government situation. All of this sounds really interesting. Maybe just in the end, I think you've already done a great job summarizing the story, but just in the end, just outline for investors your 3 main reasons to go and look at the stock today.
Really, the main reasons are, well, I'll start off with saying that mining in general is risky. These are risky investments. If you come in and you're buying an early stage explorer, that's the highest level of risk. If you're buying a company that's a producer and has reserves and has a track record of operation, that reduces the risk. If you're dealing with people who've done it before, like we have, we built 4 mines, now we're going to build number 5, have a strong technical team, again, that is mitigating risk. If you're dealing with people who can raise capital when they need it to build these mines, you're mitigating your risk. I guess I would say to you that we have a real big catalyst coming here, a permit and such a substantial mine in Los Ricos. The first mine of what will be 2 mines in Los Ricos, and our operating mine, and a lot of cash, and a lot of experience. We've done this over and over, and we're going to do it again. And the reward here is that today we're trading at about, depending on the analysts, around 0.3 of our net asset value. If you look at many other companies out there and look at analyst coverage, a company like ours probably should be trading around 0.5 or 0.6 in the frame of the market. We believe that. The analysts who cover the company believe that. So that's the potential for a potential doubling of value on a permit. So when that information is absorbed in the market, we feel there's that will happen in the near future. We'll get a permit, and that's a great catalyst. And then from there, you look at some other companies like Los Gatos was just bought out at about 2 times their NAV. Silvercrest, 1.7 times their NAV, according to analyst coverage. So we have a long way to go here with a real good catalyst now coming with a permit and starting construction. And as we get that mine built, we're going to move towards those kind of ratios to NAV. So there's a lot of upside in our stock, we believe, based on the market, based on how other producers have done. And we mitigate the risk by having done all this before and having such a strong technical team. So those are the reasons why I think you should look at GoGold as a very strong investment in our sector.
Very good. Thank you so much for giving us all those information. It's a very good pitch of your company, Brad. Thank you so much. And we wish you the best of luck for the next few weeks, and let's hope for the license soon.
Great. Thank you.